You are tuned in to a Fireside chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, Lance White. Tonight, I'm delighted to have Lucia René return as my guest. Lucia René has been a professional actress, a computer science consultant, a teacher of self-discovery, and more recently, a writer. Her amazing metaphysical journey, captured in her book, Unplugging the Patriarchy, is an absolute must-read. An exploration of consciousness spanning 40 years drew her to the practices of Hinduism, Zen, Vajrayana Buddhism, and culminated in a 17-year apprenticeship to an enlightened master of American Buddhism, psychic development, and mysticism. During this time, she was ordained as a Buddhist monk and lectured on meditation and mysticism at universities throughout the United States. After a near-death experience, she returned to assist in 3D, and her work, between now and the end of 2012, involves rebalancing the feminine/masculine energies on the planet. At the present time, she is actively empowering women to throw off their conditioning in order to stand in their power. So, let's welcome her back now. Hi, Lucia, how are you?
I'm great, Lance. I'm just so happy to reconnect with you.
Me too. You know, I was reviewing your book, and I was started to tell you about this just before the show, and I was just blown away by the profound wisdom that you share with us in the book, and your journey is such a mystical, magical journey, and it just sheds so much light on our history, our background. I just can't thank you enough for writing it.
Well, it's starting to be evidenced, isn't it, some of the information in the book. Of course, it's not new. I wasn't the first to say many of these things, but I think it managed to be pulled together in a way where the big picture was really exposed.
Yes.
Yeah, so now, of course, the work that the collaboration of women that I was involved in did, we worked on an energetic level, disassembling the energetic structures that underlie the patriarchy. But that, of course, is working on a very subtle level of creation, and it takes time for that to filter down into the 3D manifest world, right? Yeah, so we started to see evidence of that big time in 2008 when the economy started to tank, and they keep telling us it's all over, but we're smarter than that. We really don't believe them. We can tell that the whole thing is unraveling.
Well, that's what I hope. But for all of those poor people that look out into 3D and see the chaos and the destruction and the plans of the elite, and also the energetic shifts. I mean, there have been so many earthquakes and volcanoes and earth changes going on. Can you share with us what your take is on the spiritual side and what's happened since we last spoke?
Sure. I'm very big on taking responsibility, and I think that each of us chooses what we experience every moment. That's probably the underlying concept that one needs to address to begin with. But we are in a situation, an unprecedented situation, really, where we are pivoting from one world into another, and both are present this year, and all stops are off. So we can either, on a personal level, choose to play everything out in the physical world and watch all of the experiences that are drawn into our life and live through those on an emotional, intellectual, physical level. Or we can go all the way over to the other end of the spectrum and play everything out in consciousness. And most of us fall someplace in between, don't we?
Yes.
So, but the important thing to understand in terms of the collective is that really this system, with all of its corruption and oppression, and that I think includes the earthquakes and the flooding and so on. That's just Mother Earth's participation in the cycle coming to an end, and her doing whatever is needed to shift human consciousness. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the collective, this abusive patriarchal society that is ending really only stays in place because we give it permission to. And so that's what my book really is about. It begins for someone, or continues, it amps up the journey, if they've already begun that journey, of unplugging their energies from a world that is dying, that is meant to die at this time. No problem with it dying. It's supposed to die. But I realize for the personal self that can be very uncomfortable.
Well, especially when, we are not sure about what's on the other edge of the cliff, whether or not we can fly or not. And, of course, we are veiled in consciousness, so we don't have memory of our past, and that is kind of a bit of a problem for us.
Yeah, and that's why I really am seeing that this year is about being totally in the moment. We can't know the future. I think, it was curious to me because everybody does their psychic projections for 2011 and astrological projections. And this year I could not bring myself to read a single one. I thought, that's odd. Why? What would be the harm? And in pondering it, I've realized that if we are given a future, if we are given a vision of the future, at this point on the planet we have the ability to dream anything, to manifest really anything. And so if we're given a future, we would focus on that and dream it into existence. The beauty of it is we can dream anything this year. There are no limits to what we can dream personally and in terms of the collective, the shift. So, my view is let's ratchet it up as far as we can. And so if you can't know the future, and really we've never been able to know the future because it doesn't exist. There are alternate futures, right?
Right.
All we can know is the present. And so whenever I feel fear coming up for myself, I always just drop back into the present moment. I let go of the thought that is worrying about the future or reminiscing about the past, and I drop into the moment. I say, okay, is there a problem in this moment?
Right.
And generally the answer is no.
No.
There's not. Yeah.
I keep pondering the origins of humankind, and there's increasing evidence, and you bring this up in your book, that hundreds of thousands of years ago we were cloned by the Anunnaki, but there's a puzzle that I can't seem to solve, and that is, isn't it a spiritual limitation to hold on to the belief in separation and fragmentation? And how could an advanced civilization and their offspring continue to enslave us in such a low vibration? How does that involve the spiritual part of a civilization? Are they advanced or not?
Is
it important to know any of this? Is this just, mind stuff going on?
So are you equating the Anunnaki with the global elite, the power elite, the Illuminati, whatever you call them?
Well, I'm seeing those people as offspring and having been bred off the various bloodlines.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
The reptilian offshoots and the royal offshoots and those who are holding the purse strings.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem, the way I view it, is that we live in a world of dark and light, right? At least if you're viewing it from the vantage point of duality, from the personal self. If you rise up out of that and you view it from the vantage point of the universal self, it's more like the dance of Leela, right? So there is no good and bad or light and dark. But the idea, I think, is that this was a light world, and the experiment in consciousness was to inject darkness in it, because that would advocate growth in consciousness, right, for both light beings and dark beings. And if one can come into a place where they reconcile the dark and the light, where they reconcile and bring to rest all polarities within consciousness, then we ascend into unity consciousness. This is enlightenment, right? So the goal was to see, can you create a planet, or the experiment was to see, can you create a planet of free will, which we have here on Earth? Can you inject darkness into this light planet? And let's see what happens. And the problem is that the experiment got out of control. And the reason it got out of control, I mean, seriously, out of control, I think we have to agree.
Absolutely. No question about it.
Is that darkness knows no limits. Darkness didn't want to learn from the light. Darkness wanted to control and own and oppress, right?
Right.
So darkness knew no boundaries. And the light, I think, there have been light soldiers and brigades of soldiers coming in from other dimensions, and all kinds of maneuvers to try and balance things out. But my seeing is, and I have to give my friend Anelia credit for this, who pulled me back when I died. I spoke a little bit about her on the last call I was with you on. But she's a being who's here for the first time, first incarnation, has been clairvoyant since the time she came down the birth canal. So her wisdom is really unprecedented.
Wow.
And her feeling is that we've reached a time, and I agree, I can confirm this when she says it energetically within myself, we've reached a time where that is no longer acceptable. Darkness is no longer acceptable on the playing field. Light does hold the playing field, but at this point it is absolutely appropriate to say to one who is holding the dark, that's it. Either you change, either you return to the light, or you must leave now. And you can define leave in whatever way you want. You can get on a spaceship and go. You can die and leave the body. You can walk out with your body if you know how to do that mystically. There are a lot of ways to leave. But that is happening with, if you want the global elite gossip.
Yes, I do.
That is happening at an unprecedented rate. They are returning to the light, so much so that the global elite is now fractured.
Well, I had heard rumors of that, but some of that comes through channeled sources, and it's difficult to verify anything channeled lately. I try to rely on my own information, but my sense of things is that there is some kind of chaos going on.
Yeah.
And then there may be those that are not aware yet that the light is holding the final trump cards, and they're just simply acting out like little children that are, ignorant. But
you mean of the global elite, you mean?
Yes, right.
Yeah, and I think the indoctrination is so complete. They have no structures left anymore. Those have all been disassembled. But what they do have is sort of a hoodwinked, the hoodwinked masses, because the indoctrination has been so complete that if they can just keep saying, everything is fine and do this, do that, and people do, like cattle, then they can continue to pull off something of a coup. But that's getting harder and harder.
Well, what do you think would bring an end to this superficiality and dumbing down and false division that's artificially created and maintained?
Yeah, well, it is happening. It's happening on the level of consciousness. I mean, things are moving so quickly. If you just look back over the last year, all of the information that has come to light, all of the information that's now in the mass media, all of the whistleblowers, it's unprecedented, every once in a while you'll read a poll that was taken, and the majority of people believe at this point not so much that 9/11 was an inside job, perhaps, but that the government knew about it. This is a huge breakthrough in consciousness.
Yes.
That the masses could believe that at this point.
Yes.
So I think it